Hey everyone, today I'm going to be showing you how to go over the 40 and 100-yard dash data, how to make the graphs, how to have the calculate it all for you. That way this can save you some time when you do the assignment. So first up, if you go to the week 31 folder, this is the 140-yard dash assignment analysis. So that's what you click on, and it should look like this. So just a heads up, yours will look different than mine. So I'm using a combination of data from all my class for this. So your class data will probably look different. So if you're looking at this and you're seeing that your numbers don't match mine, that's okay. What you do need to pay attention to is that you're doing the same steps I am, because no matter what numbers are in these boxes, your steps are going to be the same and how you calculate it will be the same. All right, so here we go. So we're going to start with the 40-yard dash trial 1. Here are my times for that. So when we're doing this, the whole point of this lesson is to focus on distance and time and how that can make your speed, and then how your speed changes over time, what gives you acceleration. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to calculate the speed first. And then we're going to calculate acceleration. I'm going to show you how to do a couple graphs, and then we're going to make sure we answer this one. Describe the trend. It's really important that you describe the trend, because that is part of the assignment. So first up, speed. So if you remember, speed is equal to the distance divided by the time. Distance divided by time. So I have a distance in yards, and I have a time in seconds. So you could by hand do distance 10 divided by time 10.42 and get an answer. However, you can make the computer do that for you and save yourself a whole lot of time. So the way you start an equation and get the computer to actually understand what math you want it to do is by starting with the equals button. When you type the equals button, all right, you should see a little question mark pop up on your slide there, and this equal sign here. So I want the distance divided by the time. So I'm going to click on the first distance box here that says yards. So first one, 10. You should see an orange A5 pop up on your screen like that. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. So you should see an orange A5 pop up on your screen like mine is here. Oops. So again, equals 10, and then slash means divided by. So you're going to type the slash button on the keyboard, and then you want to divide it by the time. So you're going to click on the time box. So now you have A5 slash B5. So you should see the boxes that you're using outlined in orange and purple. That helps show you what the computer is about to do. So once you do this, you can go ahead and hit enter, and it'll spit out a time for you. Now, don't do this autofill thing. This is like a new feature, and it's doing the right thing, but it's doing it too far, and I'll show you how to do it correctly here. So this is your new speed. So this is the speed that this person was traveling at this time. Now, you're going to click on the box, and then you're going to see it get outlined in blue, and you should see a small blue square in the lower right corner. When you hover over it, your mouse will turn into like a crosshair kind of thing. You're going to click, hold down, and drag all the way to this last cell that's right here. See where my mouse is? All the way down there. And then you're going to let go. It will auto calculate for you in each box, which is awesome. So instead of doing each like yards divided by time for each one, it does it for you there in a second. So there are all your speeds. And it shows you how it calculated them. If you want to see, double click on your box, and it'll show you what it did. A8 divided by B8, and that's what you want. If you ever get stuck coding, you can hit escape, and it'll exit out of what you're doing. So that's how you calculate the speed. And now you can do that for all these other speeds down here. All right. So equals distance slash time, enter. and then click and drag down, and there you have it. So that's how you calculate quickly. And you can do that for each set of data for the 40s, and it works for the 100, but you just have to drag all the way down to the 100. All right, next we're going to work on acceleration. So the acceleration we're going to find is from the starting point to the ending point. I'm sorry, to the middle. So we want his acceleration from 0 up until halfway point of 20 here. And then we want the acceleration from 20 yards through 40 yards here. So that's what we're going to do. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to make the computer calculate the change in speed divided by the change in time. Okay, so the change in speed divided by the change in time. That is your acceleration. So just like we've learned in class, acceleration is the change in speed divided by the time. That's what we're doing here. So my change in speed was, my change in speed was 1.48 was where is my final speed at 20. All right, so my change in speed from my starting point is 0. So my starting point, he started at 0 from go, and then over 13 seconds, the speed increased to 1.4 yards per second. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with equals. Oops, wrong box. Equals. I'm going to do the change in speed. So you need to have parentheses here. So you do Shift 9, gives you a parenthesis. And you're going to do your final speed minus your starting speed. So it would be C6 or 1.8 minus that you start at, which was 0. Close the bracket. Let's shift 0 divided by my change in time. So I have to see my change in time. So my final time was 13.52. So I'm going to click on this box. My starting time was 0. Enter. So the acceleration between the start and here at 20 yards is 0.11, and that's yards per second squared. All right, let me show you again down here because it changes a little bit. All right, I'm going to start with equals. I'm going to do an open parenthesis. And so I want my change in speed divided by my change in time. So my change in speed here was, this was my final speed, 1.79 minus the initial speed, which he was going was at 1.48. This is where I want to find my acceleration, right here. So that tells me the change in speed between this one at 40 yards and from the halfway point, which is 20 yards, minus, that's divided by, open parentheses, my change in time. So the time it took for the whole thing was 22.4, minus the time at the halfway mark, which was 13.52. So this equation right here tells me I have my change in speed. So there's my first speed, my final speed, minus the initial speed, divided by the final time minus the starting time. So 0.03. So that's how you find the acceleration. I know that's a little tricky because you're doing the change in times, but what happens is you have to do the change from the midway point for the second one and from the starting point from this first one. So that's the whole difference here. Okay, so then next up, I'm going to show you how to do some graphs. So to make a graph, all you got to do is use this explore function that's on Google Sheets. And this is a really nice function because it does it for you instantly and you don't have to do much to it. It's really awesome. So what you want to do first is I want you to create minimum one graph, okay? But if you can make more than one, I'll give you some extra credit. So we want our graphs to do the calculations for us with a picture, all right? So we want to represent our speed by the distance time graph, which is what we calculated here. So we want to see that in a picture in order to be able to describe the trend. Because it's going to be hard to look at the numbers here and pick out a trend. You might be able to do that, but they're all kind of the same. So it's going to be hard to figure out what the trend is. It's a lot easier to look at a picture. So here's what you can do. All you got to do is highlight or select the columns that you want to make a graph of. So I want distance, which is yards, and time, which is in seconds. So if I select both of those, I can go over and click on the Explore button, and you should see it pop up some stuff and do some calculations for you. Okay? You want to scroll down, and you want to look for distance and time. So if you click on correlation between time and yards, okay, you have this is your chart. So I'll do that one more time. Correlation of time and yards. Correlation just means how are they related? How does one affect the other? Okay. So if you don't see that graph down here, and I can't guarantee that it'll come up because I think this does it based on your graphing history and what graphs you use the most. So make sure you click on correlation of time and yards. Click that here. So this is the correlation or the relationship between time and yards. You can then click and drag or hit insert chart, and you'll see that here. So now you can see the correlation between distance and time. Also, you could do the same thing between time, yards, and speed, or speed and time. So we do the speed and time. The change in speed and the change in time represents the acceleration. Because remember, change in speed over change in time. So again, see that there? Correlation of time and speed. We'll insert this one as well. All right, there we go. All right, so now I have my two charts. So I have, this is how the distance changes as the time goes on. And this is how the speed changes as the time goes on. So if we look at this, we can see that there is a speed increasing over time. All right, and then that's what we see here. So as yards go on, the time increases. Also, the acceleration one's interesting too, because you can see that the speed is increasing, and then it goes down. So even though the speed increases for this first part here, the speed dips just a little bit at the end. And you can see that the acceleration does the same thing. So you could say that this person is speeding up and increasing its acceleration until this last bit here. So that could mean something like they got tired, or maybe they were laughing and they just slowed down, or they got distracted. So that's what we're looking for to describe the trend here. So I would say something like, if I'm looking at the graphs, the runner's speed increased for the first speed. Let's go speed and acceleration. Can't type today. All right, so the runner's speed and acceleration increased for the first 30 yards. Then the acceleration decreased slowed down. This would be a good thing to write. Now, the reason it doesn't show up all the way in here is because I kind of have some stuff in the way. All right, but when I can click on it, I can see what you wrote. All right, so this is what I'm going to be looking at. All right, so this again, this is an important part of this assignment. The runner's speed and acceleration increased for the first 30 yards, then the acceleration decreased towards the end and he slowed down. This is what I'm looking for when I ask you to describe your data. Please do this. This is part of the assignment. It will be graded. Okay, so what we're going to do is you're going to complete the rest of this following those same steps. So if you need to do anything, go back and watch each part of the video. If you need to see how to calculate the speed, if you need to see how to do the acceleration, if you need to see how to make the graphs, if you need to hear my explanation for the describing the trend, please make sure you go back and watch those. That way you can watch them as many times as you want to get it out, get out what you need. If you still have questions, please reach out to me so I can help you. And one last thing I want to point out is, so this is the acceleration for the first 30 yards or 50 yards. So it's these boxes here. And then this is the acceleration from then on. Okay, so this is the acceleration for the first 50 yards. This is the acceleration for the second 50 yards. Okay, so hopefully this was helpful and you can use it to complete your assignment. Please let me know if you need help.